Today we're going to cover the installation of our Evolution upgrade for the 2021 and up Toyota Sienna with the JBL sound system. The kit is comprised of 3 elements. Basically, we have our amplifier package, which consists of a 710 watt 8-channel DSP amplifier and our 300 watt dedicated subwoofer amplifier, a plug-and-play wiring harness, and of course our replacement 4-coil 8-inch carbon fiber cone woofer that comes along with the prerequisite 4-coil speaker leads. And typically this can be done as a DIY project, or you can send us your enclosure so we can retrofit this product. As a precaution, we always start all our installs by disconnecting the negative terminal of the vehicle battery. The reason for that is so that all the devices in the vehicle has a chance to dissipate any stored energy and we don't trip anything in the vehicle while we're disconnecting components out of the car. Cargo area, and basically take that. It's a little bit heavy because of the jack, and you take a 12mm spanner like I do and directly go to the negative terminal and loosen it. First is the main ground to the terminal with a 12mm nut. Remove that and unplug. After disconnecting the battery, we're going to go ahead and proceed to disassembling the glove box area so that you can gain access to the factory JBL amplifier. We'll start by removing the glove box assembly, and the way you do it, which is very typical of Toyota, is you drop it down, you release the door shock on the side by pulling it outwards this way. You compress each side to loosen and grab it that way. Pull it out. Make sure you have all the clips. Pop the threshold panel. And make sure you have all the clips. Plastic nut, the back of that piece. You can try using a panel tool too here to kind of help you pull it this way. So you need to pull it a little bit that way and then out. 10mm screw here that we have to remove, but before we do that we got to remove the bottom panel, and it has clips that hold, locking tabs that hold it in place. Usually you can use a panel tool. Press in and drop it down. With a pick tool, get to the edge and release the pin that holds the clip. Pull it down, remove the knee pad, and the way you do it, you start on this side by unclipping it. Just work your way through and pull in this direction. There you go. Make sure all your clips are still in place. Next, we're going to remove the 3 8mm screws that are holding the glove box. Next, now we can remove the whole glove box panel assembly by pushing it or pulling it in this direction. Clips support it. There is a light here that you have to unclip, and then take this clip out by just pulling it out, and there you go. Next, we're going to disconnect the main system connector from the factory JBL amplifier located behind the glove box. So now that we've disassembled this area, this is the JBL amplifier, and this is the main system connector and the system connector harness. Just to give you an example, we're going to show you from our adapter harness how to unlock that piece. So essentially what you have here is a locking mechanism that is that tab inside the push handle. And what you need to do, because it's in such a weird and upside down position, you're gonna need to get essentially an angled pick tool and find a way to essentially feel your way in this way from under and then release it that way. And once that's released, you can pull out the connector. Pretty straightforward. The main connector, and the way you're going to do this is basically try to get to this back portion over here where that black tab is, and you are going to try to use the pick tool to pull it down as well. And there, you hear it unclick, and now you can pull it out. And this is the resting position of that locking tab. To remove the connector next to it, which is essentially the noise cancellation microphone plug, and we'll explain later why we need to do that. Again, with the angled pick tool, I would just basically push on the push tab and pull down. At this point, you can either put this away and wire tie it out of the way because it's not going to be replugged. The reason we unplug that is because we essentially defeat the noise cancellation effect of that amplifier. Otherwise, it would feed back into the subwoofer amplifier and cause interruptions in the way it operates. But nonetheless, based on long-term testing, we've realized that it's not any of significant value to disconnect that, and therefore you'll not really notice any kind of reduced comfort or satisfaction in driving the vehicle. Next, we're going to be removing the front passenger side seat so we can go to the next step of installing and mounting the amplifiers underneath the seat. But before we do that, we got to remove the seat and observe some protocol on how to disconnect the airbag wires. Again, the first thing you got to do is position the seat so that you can access the rear bolts and then be able to move the seat again to access the front bolt. So it's in that order: remove the rear bolts and then remove the front bolts. Now, under the circumstances, typically we do this from the very beginning of the installation before we disconnect the factory ground from the battery terminal, so that the motor, because it's a powered seat, we're still able to move it back and forth. So first things first, position the seat all the way forward. The rear bolts are located here and located over here. Again, taking our trusty T50 nut remover. Position the seat all the way to the back. Bolt locations are here, and the same T50 bit is what we use. One more time so that the front seat bolts are covered, and now the seat is sitting dead center. Before we remove the seat from the vehicle, we have to disconnect all the seat control and airbag connectors, and these are primarily this, and this. This is normally connected, but for some reason this is already, the clip has broken. For this airbag connector, I pull it out of the socket because it's easier. Then using a flathead screwdriver, I essentially push down on the tabs and pull it out like that. A bit more pressure. Hold it with 2 hands. Sometimes it disconnects from the holder. And then this last one, same thing. Bag. Basically pull this down. This one here. And it disconnects. For the purposes of full disclosure, the system in this Sienna has already been installed prior, but we're trying to simulate how to remove the seat, which we did on a separate video, show you how to disassemble the seat, install the amp bracket, and reassemble it. But for the purposes of this install video, we're just taking it off from where we did the last install, and essentially these are the power wires going to the amplifiers and the remote bass knob. So for our new install, these will not be installed, and we will show you how that installs. This video is going to show how to install the dual amplifier amp rack system for the 2022 and newer Toyota Sienna Limited Platinum with power seats, and the amps reside underneath the passenger side front seat. It will show you the complete disassembly and installation of this unit. We're going to be using 2 tools primarily to do this installation, and one of them will be a 10mm ratcheting wrench with a adjustable angle, and then the other one is a 12mm, so you can access the bolts to the seat. Step 1 after removing the seat from the vehicle is to be able to put it in either a folding table or some kind of raised platform, so you're within arm's reach of all the linkages and the frame underneath the seat, so that way you don't have to bend down or do anything. Number 1, there are basically 4 bolts we're going to remove in this seat to gain access to mounting the amp assembly here. Number 1 is these 2 here, which are 12mm, and these are the other 2 on the other side. So this is the outboard side that faces the door, and this is by the center console. And then the 5th screw will be this 10mm that mounts the motor for the seat. We're going to remove the inboard screws or bolts to loosen the bracket and allow us to articulate the motor. Next step is we unplug the motor. Then we release it from its mounting by lifting it like this. And we move the frame away so that it releases the motor freely, like this. And then what you do is you basically pull the motor back like there to remove the other shaft. So that releases one shaft, and then essentially that releases the motor, and then you take out the other shaft. So again, to reiterate, here are the pieces. And that essentially releases the bracket. And then you insert this side first to allow the width to go in. And then you slide this slowly into place here, like so. Put one bolt in first just to secure the amp bracket from moving. It goes underneath all the wires. Like so. The top of the motor bracket. So the alignment is always going to be that way. There we go. Insert it underneath here. There you go. Take your time. If you have an assistant to help you hold the bracket, that helps too. But it'll take a certain amount of time to put it in. Just be patient, and if you have any questions, give us a holler. This is your main signal harness, and this side is what goes and gets plugged into the Toyota amplifier, JBL amplifier, and the Toyota main harness. So this goes on this side. At the same time, this other part here is your amplifier connections. So essentially you will have your input and outputs directly into the DSP amplifier. The subwoofer connects in with a different amplifier, so we're going to show that to you in a different light. Plug it into this amplifier so you can see how to run it and essentially tuck the wires away. First thing I do is I take the factory connector and click it in place. Then I get the other connector, which we locked earlier, but now what we're going to do is install it into the factory amp. Remember, at this time we disconnected already the noise cancellation microphones. Go back up here, go in there and click in place, and that's it. This header can be tucked away here. So all you do is a very clean loom goes down this way, and then you can essentially route it in this manner. Oh, just in case you're curious what this is, the rear speakers, the very rear surrounds, are run in mono, and therefore this is a loop connector, so they're run in series between the left and right speakers. Then now it's time to run it underneath the carpet. I just really lightly flip the carpet over like this, and then we're going to snake it through this opening here. Try your best to keep it parallel with the factory harness so that the wires don't bulge as much underneath the carpet. And then, because we already installed the amps here, what you're gonna find is you're gonna find these leads. Ground location we're using is a factory ground that's located right about here. So if you peel the carpet away, you can see it essentially where there's a 10mm bolt. Take our provided amplifier power and ground wires, and here's your ground, and essentially what you need to do is run this again in the same opening in the carpet, so that we can plug it straight to the amplifiers. You keep the other factory ground that's already installed in there. Ground is underneath our ground. Earlier in the video where we showed you where we were installing the harness, we forgot to mention about running the telephone cable for the remote base knob. So very simple, as an addendum to those initial steps, because we're gonna put it inside the glove box, we decided to run the cable all the way here so we can basically tuck away the slack in this area, wire tied securely in place. So essentially we ran the wire underneath here, So we followed this conduit along with the factory harness and ran it down the same path, going this way across here and essentially exiting here. And we decided to tie it in with the seat airbag wiring because of the way it flows, and it allows us to bridge the cable into the amplifier neater. So that's that. Next steps, we're going to run the power wire from this area to the battery in the cargo area. Power wire run will start from this area where we home run the main connectors to the amps, travel through here, through under the threshold panel, into the back panel, ending up by the battery. To start that, what we do is we have to remove several of these panels to access the pathway for the wire. So the first thing we do is remove this ventilation grill on the side, and the way you do it is you basically take a Phillips screwdriver and turn this a few turns, and with a panel popper you take it out, and then here there's a side clip that you pop out. Once you this one now, and the first thing we do is we're going to remove these 3 covers to remove the 3 10mm bolts that are holding it in place. Once you get that out, then we'll be free to take out this low or dark panel to gain access to the pathway. We remove this threshold cover too, and 1 more panel over here. Take it out. This is a 14mm nut, and we'll use a socket wrench to remove it. We're going to remove these 3 covers. Take your panel tool and gently insert it in the side and push out. Here, 2, get out. By simply lifting here in the edge, clips are in place. Over here, and basically it pops out that way. So again, gently pry it like this. Use your fingers on the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4. It houses some fuses. So again, we pop this out. The way you pop it out is you go from the bottom and pull down this way. Again, with our trusty trim panel tool, just take it like this, take it out. Now we remove this panel. The way to do it is you take out some of the weather stripping on both sides. And then over here is the connector. Just unclip it. Clips. Particular is equipped with some aftermarket stuff, so don't mind any of these additional wires. That's not ours. But anyway, here we go. So from here, what I'd like to do is basically lay the wires out loosely and find all my pathways. First, what I'll do is lift the carpet and realize that I can go this way with the power wires behind the harnesses. Install it underneath the ventilation duct here, just to keep the wires uniform and clean. I like to find areas where I could tuck the wire underneath in a way. You notice it immediately exits out here, so just gently guide it in. Don't fray or damage the insulation. Get it in place. Again, remove your weather strip and slowly, carefully pop out your upper section here, which will allow you to have full access into the cavity. Also, it's highly recommended you pop the cup holder. It basically pops up there, and essentially you finish running it down here. Once we've landed the power wires here, we're going to install the dual fuse holder into the positive terminal of the battery. Tighten it. you can see that this is the solid yellow wire, and this one is the one with the red. So you match the red with the red, so you know that the fuses are assigned to the proper amplifiers. Let's get through this. Now we're going to access how to remove and reinstall the factory subwoofer. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these side panels here and here. There are slots on the edge here that you can put a pry tool and basically pull it down like this. 10mm bolts on either end. Remove them. Essentially pull on the sides. From the front, there are hinges over here that prevent it from falling down. Make sure you have all the snaps. This is a piece of hush mat foam that we provide with a kit which you install prior to reinstalling the panel. The factory sub, you have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 10mm bolts. Do this. These hush mat panels were installed by us prior to reinstallation of the subwoofer into the vehicle. It's also, we retrofitted our woofer in place using a machine baffle board and our own pigtail. In the production version of the kit, we'll be retaining the use of the factory plug along with an adapter. This is the factory subwoofer plug adapter, which essentially will plug into the factory plug on this side and into the OEM Audio Plus subwoofer on this side.